my YouTube viewers. This is Crystal, and what I'm doing is I'm doing a time series analysis in ours inbuilt dataset called JohnsonJohnson. And if you recall my last video that I did it on air passengers. So in this video, I'm doing on JohnsonJohnson. So JohnsonJohnson is an American company, and from what I understand, it's a black-owned company as well. And they sell all kinds of toiletries. And but basically, this is going to be their earnings per share from 1960 to 1980. So that's a 21 years earnings per share that we're going to be analyzing. And so since it is ours inbuilt data set, we're going to call up data JohnsonJohnson, and we're going to also call up class JohnsonJohnson, which tells you it's a time series. But also, we're going to do this analysis in a Jupyter notebook. And the reason why we're going to do the analysis in a Jupyter notebook is because whenever you are making graphs and plots and things, Jupyter notebooks are easier to use than the regular R compiler. So I have an R compiler in my Chromebook, but I don't have an R compiler in my Microsoft notebook. And the reason why is because Microsoft Store does not have any R compilers that I can use. But if you want to use R in Google Colab, up here is the what you have to type into your browser to get Google Colab in R. So basically, if you type this into your browser, it will set you up to use a Google Colab in R, which is what I've done. So I'm doing this in Google Colab. So we've already called up our data set, and we've also checked the class of it, which is a time series. And now what we're going to do is we're going to check the structure of it. So the structure of it is a time series 1 to 84 from 1960 to 1981. Really, it's 1980. And then so you have 84 earnings per share values. So the start of JohnsonJohnson is 1, and the end of JohnsonJohnson is 4. And the reason why, because if you view JohnsonJohnson, you have your index is from 1960 to 1980, and then your columns are quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So at the end of JohnsonJohnson, that's why it says it's 1980 to 4. So you can see here, 11.61. So what I've done, if you watched my last video, I didn't have a scatter plot. But what I've done in this video, I have created a scatter plot. And in addition to creating a scatter plot, I also put a linear model in there, and then a red line. So to create the scatter plot, do plot JohnsonJohnson, comma, main equals JohnsonJohnson quarterly earnings. X lab is year, Y lab is earnings per share in USD. Type is P, that's telling you it's a point. PCH is 19 and color is blue. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a trend line, which deals with linear regression. So model gets LM brackets JohnsonJohnson, and I think that's a tilde, time JohnsonJohnson. And then AB line, that's a red line, is model, comma, color equals red, LWD equals 2. And then we're going to put it on a grid. So when we run it, this is what you get. So you get the scatter plot, and then you get a red linear regression line on the scatter plot. And so what this tells you is that the earnings per share are not necessarily linear. So what you would have to do is it would be like a polynomial regression, maybe a 2 or a 3, but it's not linear. You can see that from the earnings per share. It's close to being linear, but it's not linear. So there's your scatter plot of your earnings per share in the Johnson & Johnson data set. So now what we're going to do is, I think we've already done that, haven't we? Yeah, we've already done view. So we've already done view. So I don't really need that, do I? So it's always a good idea to do these videos. And the reason why we can do these videos is so if I've done something I shouldn't have done or done extra, then I can correct that. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a line plot. So plot Johnson & Johnson color equals blue, but we'll make it a different color. Oh, I think I messed that up. I'll just run it again. So now we've got a different color. We've got a color as purple because this is blue and this is purple, just to give it a different color. So now we're going to have a plot of passenger counts for 1960. So first row gets window brackets Johnson Johnson's, comma, start equals C. And C means that you put these numbers together. Brackets 1960, comma 1, comma, end equals C, 1960, comma 4. So on the first row, it's going to be 1 to 4. And basically, the C stands for something, but it's basically combining the values. And then so this is the row that we see, 1960, and you can see the quarters, the earnings per share. So we're going to plot the first row, and you can see we plotted it in blue. And so you can see that that's the first row. It has 4 quarters, so there's 4 points for the earnings per share. Now we're going to plot the passenger counts. So I messed that up, didn't I? Let's see. That's earnings per share, so that's something I didn't do. So we plot the passenger counts for 1980, and so that's going to be your last row gets window brackets Johnson Johnson, comma, start equals C, brackets 1980, comma 1, comma, end equals C, brackets 1980, comma 4. Because you know in this particular data set you have 4 columns of data, being quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And then so we plot this on green, so you can see this is the plot. In green you can see that there's 4 points, so you have 4 lines. And then so now what we're going to do is we're going to plot the two lines, being the first row and the last row. So we're going to plot these two lines on a graph in R. So X becomes 1:4, Y1 becomes S dot numeric first row, Y2 becomes S dot numeric last row. So we're going to plot the first series, PLT brackets X comma Y2 comma type equals L, that tells you it's the line, comma color equals blue, LWD, that's your line width, equals 2, X lab equals index, Y lab equals values, main equals two series on one chart, Y lim equals range, C Y1, Y2. And so we're going to add a second line. So lines, brackets, X, comma, Y1, comma, color equals green, comma, LWD equals 2. So we're going to add the legend. Legend, brackets, top right, comma, legend equals C, brackets, 1980, comma, 1960. Color equals C, blue, green, LWD equals 2. So now we have two series in one chart. So you can see the series for 1960 and you can see the series for 1980. So you can see that the earnings per share for 1980 were significantly higher than the earnings per share for 1960. Okay, so now we've done a box plot of the earnings per share. So you can see that this is your box plot of your earnings per share. So that's telling you that you've got a few outliers. So now we have an inbuilt data frame is converted to a standard data frame. So DF becomes, let's just do this again. DF becomes data.frame, year equals floor, brackets time, comma, JohnsonJohnson, quarter equals cycle, brackets, JohnsonJohnson, EPS equals S dot numeric, JohnsonJohnson. So you can see the head of the DF, and in R, your head is 6 rows of data. So you've got your year, your quarter, and your EPS, earnings per share. And then you've got your tail of your DF as well. So you've got, it starts in, the head starts in 1960 and the tail ends in 1980. So now we're going to do a box plot of the passenger counts for each year. Box plot, brackets, EPS, tilde, year, comma, data equals DF, comma, X lab equals year, comma, Y lab equals earnings per share, comma, main equals Johnson & Johnson by year, comma, color equals light blue, and LAS equals 2. So these are your earnings per share by year, and you can see that the earnings per share in 1980 were significantly higher than the earnings per share in 1960. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do it by quarter. Okay, so the by quarter is going to be similar to the year, but instead of analyzing it by year, we're going to be analyzing it by quarter. And so you can see we've got our EPS by quarter. So you can see quarter 2 and quarter 3 are higher than quarter 1 and quarter 4. So that's giving you analysis of earnings per share by quarter and also an analysis of earnings per share by year. So that concludes this time series analysis. If you like my video, please like and subscribe, and I look forward to making some more R program analysis for you in the future.